Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, let's just take a look back at the last couple of days here, last 3 days actually, of snowfall. We can see where our mountains have certainly picked up some snow, but the bigger snow out there in the higher plains getting into Montana, and some locations topping 4 feet of snow. And a consequence of having that snow on the ground is as this deeper trough stays in place and the skies finally clear out after this big low pressure system has finally left the Pacific Northwest, well, those temperatures have really bottomed out. And I pulled this from the National Weather Service out of Great Falls, looking at these October 1st low temperatures in parts of Browning, near and around Browning, where they did see over 4 feet of snow. Their temperatures this morning, 1 degree. 1 degree. Incredible to see that. And very, very cold, as it says up here, start to October in this region. Now, just take a moment and let this particular image set in. I hope you always watch our videos in HD. They are available in HD. Some of the things I'm concerned about early this morning, which we talked about last week as being our major threat with this, is that getting into the Columbia Basin, so let's just kind of circle where that region is located right in through here, into the Columbia Basin, also into the Snake River Valley down here. We were talking about temperatures that would be getting to that frost and freeze number here. So if I take those drawings off, some of my early morning concerns, look at Yakima, 30 degrees, getting down over toward Walla Walla, we're down here as well, seeing our low temperatures down, approaching that freezing mark. Kennewick did stay above freezing, at least through early in the morning, but much of the basin, see it in here, seeing these temperatures flirting with freezing. Now, this is still a couple of hours before sunrise when I'm making this video, which means we're going to continue to see temperatures drop off. Getting down into parts of Oregon, we can see that right here in the Willamette Valley, our temperatures already down here in the 34 to 36 degree range. And so with a couple more hours of cooling ahead of us and not any strong winds to change those temperatures, I think we're going to continue to see them bottoming out here right around the freezing mark. Getting back over here into to eastern Washington, around the Palouse, we do see temperatures hitting that freezing mark. But let's come down to the the Snake River Valley. It's much warmer on the western side. So over here in Boise, we got 39 degrees. But look at this. Get back toward Twin Falls, then come up toward Idaho Falls. We do know the elevation change that happens through here, but basically from Twin Falls to Pocatello and then up to Idaho Falls, this is where we have our freeze threat early this morning. Now, this is to say nothing of the cold temperatures we're getting in this part of Montana, but that was a given, knowing that we had so much snow in that area. So these are some very, very cold temperatures compared to our seasonal normals. Taking a look here at Northern California and Nevada as well, we do get up here at the higher elevations. We're certainly seeing temperatures hit the freezing mark, but getting into the valley, it's a lot of low to mid 40s in the Sacramento Valley this morning. So this is not producing a frost event in this area, but that deep trough has really dropped our temperatures off. So keep a close eye early this morning on how cold it did get, because this is certainly, if I just go back here, with what's left of potato harvest, those potatoes there, we know that if we get a freezing temperature, especially something around 28, 29 degrees, we can freeze that watery membrane that's right there on the potato, split it, and cause major problems here. So that's just one of the many issues we've got. I was concerned about the vineyards that run right in through the I-5 corridor here in the Willamette Valley, and other vineyards tucked away down here in southern and eastern Washington, also having some problems. So this is some very unseasonably cold air that's in place. So just to give you that broader perspective, I know you're like, well, wait a minute, why don't we have the freeze warnings out for Montana? Well, we're way past warning about the freeze here, but you can see here in the Columbia Basin, stretching all the way up towards Spokane, this region right in through here showing the freeze warning. And then again, it's that eastern side of the Snake River Valley with the freeze warnings this morning. Then coming down through the Willamette Valley, we've got the frost advisories here, and then getting into Northern California, we're dealing with it as well. So again, this is elevation dependent, especially when you get into Northern California, but this is probably our biggest story as we start this forecast. You see, this has been something we haven't been able to shake throughout much of this last month. We've had this pattern that's really favored a dominant southeast ridge and more often than not troughing over the Pacific Northwest. So a very cold end to summer and beginning of spring here. Beginning of fall. Now, if we just take a look at this, I love this animation. This is over the last week. When the dots show up, they show you where you're approaching record highs. Those are the warmer color dots. And where you're approaching the record cold, which are the cooler color dots. So we can see that once we get out here toward the end of this animation, September 30th and October 1st, that's where those colder dots start to show up. So my major question to ask is is this pattern breaking down? I will be addressing in detail these features in tomorrow's long-range update. The positive phase of that Indian Ocean dipole is actually getting stronger in the near term, and that's interesting because at the same time, the Southern Oscillation Index, which is kind of something we watch to help us understand El Nino, La Nina, is increasing. And these two things are working, interestingly enough, together. Hurricane Lorenzo, which I mentioned in yesterday's video, is actually going to be changing things up in the North Atlantic. And it turns out, combine that with what's going on in the North Pacific, our jet stream pattern might flatten out a bit, which could bring in some relief in terms of our temperature pattern, but not bring in the warmth. And let me show you what I'm talking about. If I play this forward over here, this is what we've got by the middle and end of this week. So by Thursday, our next trough does sweep in. Yes, precipitation chances increase with this, but this trough is nowhere near as deep as the one we just got rid of. Lorenzo, right over here going into Europe, turns out that that's impacting this high over low pattern we have in the North Atlantic. It's part of what's called the North Atlantic Oscillation. And because of Lorenzo, we're actually seeing, look at this, we're actually seeing our wave number pattern increase across the Northern Hemisphere, such that by the time I get into the weekend, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave number pattern. So that is a relatively unblocked pattern, which means systems keep coming through, but they're going to resist getting as deep as the ones we most recently saw. But the problem is, as I take you out to the 12th, 13th, and 14th of the month, we in general don't shake this trough behavior that we've got here in the Gulf of Alaska, which means the chances of us getting much above average on temperatures are relatively slim. But at least it is not a cold. Now, by the way, my comment there is primarily for the Pacific Northwest. California will be seeing some above average temperatures. We're going to see that in a few minutes. It's not anytime soon, though. Take a look at this. This is from the National Digital Forecast Database. We're looking at high temperature anomalies starting off on the day on Tuesday. So in parts of Montana, we're 30 plus degrees colder than average. The rest of the Pacific Northwest, anywhere between 15 and 20. And down into California, it's around 10 to 15. As we play this forward, let's just pause it right here and see what we get on the day on Wednesday. Moderation begins. So see that? Here's Thursday. There's Thursday. Getting into Friday. We still have yet to shake this colder bias, but it's only colder by 10 degrees, not 20 to 30 by the time we get into Friday. Now, as you approach the weekend, watch California. Saturday into Sunday, we start to rebound on our temperatures there first. And then this is going to be pretty nice, much more seasonal for this time of year by the time we get into early next week. And that's because the deeper trough finally presses through the midsection of the country toward the northeast. But like I said, we're not going to be going back over into much above average temperatures in the northwest in the foreseeable future here. But before I show you that long range temperature, I want to draw it back to precipitation. Over the next 15 days, if we had to identify a preferred storm track, initially systems are going to come down like this, but then we're going to have a bit of a trajectory swing here. And much of what I'm going to be showing you over the next 15 days or so is going to be targeting here coastal Oregon and Washington. Yes, systems do get into the Intermountain West, but I'm not anticipating seeing anything like we just saw over the last few days. Okay, so let's get in and see some of those details. High resolution NAM model going forward throughout the day today. One of the areas that I'm watching, let's let this play out and bring it back. Throughout the day today, so 2, 3 o'clock, watch here in parts of just north of the Snake River Valley, so getting into the Bitterroot, just south of the Bitterroot actually, Sawtooth Mountains right in through here, we are going to be seeing potentially some heavy rainfall popping up on the mountains there. Now this system, as it ejects, there it goes, it's finally out into parts of eastern Montana and Wyoming. Much of the rest of the Pacific Northwest gets a little bit of a break through the day on Wednesday. But by Thursday, our next trough sweeps in here such that by early in the morning on Thursday, we're bringing in more precipitation here into the parts of Oregon and Washington. California, you're going to be far enough south to not have to deal with this one. To get you beyond this point in time, I got to switch over to the longer term models here. So let's just pause it right there, 7 a.m. on Thursday. So this is the system sweeping through Thursday into Friday. And it will be bringing snow to the higher elevations, but this is nowhere near as deep of a trough as the one we just saw. So again, an unsettled end of the week for the Pacific Northwest as that system comes through. As we get into the weekend, we can see here that once we get into the weekend, higher pressure dominates toward the Saturday into Sunday. But our next system takes aim on British Columbia by Monday, such that by Tuesday, Wednesday, there it is, getting Tuesday into Wednesday, that next system comes into the Pacific Northwest. Now that's out there, 8 or 9 days out from us. So we're curious if that system is really going to be in this position at that time frame. So at least give you some model confidence in that. This is the 9 to 11 day time period, and it does appear that the trajectory of that next system is at least giving us above average precipitation chances from an analog perspective over that time period. So you got a couple of systems coming in the next. We have one that's exiting today. We have one that's coming in Thursday into Friday. It looks like the weekend builds in high pressure, but we need to be watching early next week, Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe for this next system to be moving through. That is a summary of what to expect in the Pacific Northwest. In terms of our temperatures, over the next 5 days, certainly dominated, as you saw, by that trough ridge pattern. But things break down in the 6 to 10 day outlook, and even though we still hang on to the cooler bias here, warmth returns to California as the deeper trough really builds into the parts of the northeastern United States. So California, the cooler weather you've been seeing is expected to moderate and warm back up. You can see over here in the 6 to 10 day time period, but certainly cooler than average, especially over the next 5 days. Stretching this out till days 11 through 15, I mentioned the pattern flattening out, but we in general can't seem to shake troughing in this general area. So the warm-up is happening here south of that line, and we're going to be keeping those near average to possibly cooler than average temperatures here into the middle part of October for much of the Pacific Northwest. So that is the pattern that we are having a hard time shaking. So this is as though you went from summer and then just kind of skipped what I would call a nice fall. We've had too much rainfall, honestly, to really help out with harvest, although it is certainly helping the pastures. They're looking good for this time of year, and this is helping winter wheat that was planted, certainly helping with the germination of that. But in terms of doing things like cutting hay, putting up hay for winter, this has not been good. This has been too much rainfall over this time period, and you add into those cold temperatures and we've had a problem. So we're going to stop it right there, though, and tell you just to check in tomorrow for the long range update as I take a look out over the next 6 weeks is what we should expect here, not only on the West Coast, but around all of North America. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up right here. We want to thank you for your attention. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.